Hello, I'm Todd Jenson, County Conservationist, Greene County Land and Water Conservation Department. Today I'm going to go through how to do a land judging pit. The first thing when you get to the site is you look around. You will find at this site there are 4 orange colored laths. They are the boundaries of the judging area. There are, in this case, 2 peg flags for possible invasive species that you need to know if they are one of the invasive species of the 7 that you are required to know. Next we have 2 pink ribbons for the slope flags. Those are 100 feet apart for judging the slope of this particular site. Within the pit itself, there's a white string. That white string is the official judging area done by the soil scientist. You can dig in that pit anywhere you want except within the white stringed area. Another important thing you need to know is a pit information card. This will tell you the original soil surface thickness, the field size, soil test report, if there are invasive species to be looking for, what the land use is. It can either be cropland, pastureland, woodland, or wildlife, and any other factors that may exist at this site. So the first thing you do when you get out to the site, you look for the position of the landscape. Where are we? Well, first of all, there's no water within a quarter or a half a mile from here, so it can't be a stream bottom or bench. So we must be in an upland. For upland choices, we can either have a hilltop or plain, a sloping hillside, or a depression or drainage way. Based on the slope here, which is pretty flat, it's not a sloping hillside. It's not in a depression, and the drainage ways are actually off on this side as well as up on this side. So we are in upland plain. The next question is the slope. Different coaches have different ways of teaching slope. This is the way that I try and teach it. First of all, I know that these iron rings are about 3 feet tall. My shoulder height is about 5 feet. What I would do is lay my head on my shoulder, having my arm out perpendicular, and I'm looking to see that my fingertip is just above that flag out there. So that means it's at about 4 feet high. And my eye height is 5 feet, so it's about a 1% slope. The next thing we need to do is go back into the pit. We take a look at the pit card and we see that the original soil surface is 6 inches thick. So we're going to look for our topsoil to see how thick it is. And by looking at it, I would say that our topsoil goes down to right about here. This is much more than 6 inches thick. So if you have 6 inches, this was our original topsoil. Here to here is deposition. So you'd mark deposition on this question. The next question is the texture of the topsoil. In most contests, they will give you buckets of soil. One being for topsoil, one being for subsoil. They will also provide water for you. The best thing to do is get a little water in it. And you can do the feeling, it takes some practice on it, but this is a silt loam. The next thing that they ask is the structure. When you look at this, you should be able to see basically lines or what's called plates within the soil. What has happened over the years is we've had erosion and the soil has come in and deposited and just kept going up in layers or in plates. The next question they ask is the texture of the subsoil. So you go back to the subsoil bucket, you do the same thing again, grab some soil, you can wet it down a little bit, get a feel for it, and once again, this is a silt loam. Then they ask for the structure in here. This particular site is pretty hard and pretty dry right now, but I did some digging and these popped out. These are called prisms. So basically the soil is in a prismatic or columnar shape. These are not seen that often, but they do appear from time to time. The next question is based on the natural drainage. We're looking for models above 36 inches. Models are basically iron deposits from the water traveling up and down throughout the soil, and they will leave orange, red, green, gray, a variety of different colors, splotches throughout the soil. There are no models in this, so the natural drainage is well drained. Depth of soil favorable for roots. The roots can go down all the way to the bottom of this. There is nothing stopping them, such as water table, bedrock, things like that. So over 40 inches for depth of soil favorable for roots. The soil fertility. That way I have to go back up to the pit card. Do we mark for pH? We're looking for a pH in the range of 6.5 to 8. Being 7, that is good, so we have not marked the pH. Nitrogen, they're either going to mark deficient or sufficient. Since it's written down deficient, we would check for nitrogen. Phosphorus, we're looking for 30 parts per million or more being good. This is 40, so you will not mark phosphorus. Potassium, we're looking for 150 or more. This one has 165, so we're good with that. You would not check potassium. So the only block you would check is for nitrogen. The next side of the score sheet. Always make sure and turn the score sheet over. I've seen so many kids only check off the front page and then turn it in. The soil limitations. First question is soil subject to sheet, rill, or wind erosion? If it exceeds 2% or more, or if it's sandy or organic soil, then you would mark yes. This one has a 1% slope, so the answer is no. Is this site subject to occasional overflow or flooding? This is only on a floodplain or with waterways. Since our waterways are over there and up this way, we would check no. Surface drainage restricted. We're looking for models for this question. There were no models, so our answer for this one is no. Subsoil drainage restricted from a high water table. This one we're looking for models above 36 inches. Since we don't have any, you would check no. Low available water capacity. We're looking at either very sandy or 50% more of stones in the top 40 inches. We have neither of those, so you would check no for that as well. Next question is for stoniness. That is, are there 50% of stones in the top 10 inches? We do not have stones in the top 10 inches, so you check no for that. Now, since the first 6 answers are all no, number 7, which asks for no major limitations, you would check yes for that. And since we have checked no major limitations for that, when we get to the land capability class, we are going to check class 1 land. For part 4 for the questions, develop and implement a nutrient management plan. You always check yes if it is cropland or pasture land. Since we are judging for cropland, we're going to check yes. Second question is to use residue management or plant a cover crop. Once again, in cropland and pasture land, you check yes. Woodland and wildlife, you would check no. But since we're in cropland, we're going to check yes. Contour farming, contour buffer strips, and contour strips. you would check yes only if it is cropland between 2 and 20%. We are in cropland, but the slope is 1%, so you're going to check no for that. Maintain existing terraces. You would only check yes if there is a terrace existing in this area. There is none, so you would check no. Construct or maintain grass waterways. You only do that if there is a concentrated flow of water going through the site. There is not in this case, so you would check no. Renovate or otherwise improve pasture. You would only do that when the pit card is marked as pasture land. Since we're in cropland, you would check no. Eliminate or manage grazing. Once again, this is only for pasture land sites, so we'll check no. Improve timber stand or plant adapted trees. This is only for woodland and wildlife sites. We're in a cropland site, so you check no. Establish windbreaks. You only do this for very sandy soil or next to houses. We're in neither of those, so we'll check no. Protect stream banks or lake shores. This is for along streams and rivers. We do not have water in this area, so we're going to check no. Improve fish and wildlife habitat. This is for streams, woodland, and wildlife area lands. We do not have that here, so we're going to check no. Establish riparian forest buffers. This is along streams and for wildlife land. We have neither of those right here, so we're going to check no. And the last question in that category is to control invasive species that are present. Well, we have to go check out our pink ribbons over here. And our first plant here is a thistle. That is not one of our 7 invasive species. But when we get over to, to this one, we have multiflora rose. This is one of our invasive species that we must know. So you would check yes for this box. The last category is the non-ag use limitations. The first question is houses with basements. We do not have restrictions for this one. There's no rocks, no water, the steepness isn't a problem, so you would check no for box number 1. For number 2, the septic tank absorption field, you would have to check yes because the subsoil is not a sandy loam soil, which is the only acceptable soil that we would use for septic tanks. And the last question is for local roads and streets. Since the subsoil was a medium, you would have to check yes, because with mediums, moderately fines, fines and organics, those are not acceptable for building roads. So you would have to check yes for that. That is the end of pit number 1. One thing I want to mention is that everyone, before you start working on these, you should read the soil study and land evaluation handbook. Very handy tool to use. Has a lot of information for judging of these land judging sites. Okay, I'm watering down the face of the pit. Sometimes the pit boss, the person who takes the scorecards from you when you're done judging, will have the soil face watered down for you. If not, and they have water bottles, go ahead and do this. One of the more important things of why to do this is if there's mottles in here. Sometimes when the faces are dry like this, the mottles will not pop out at you. Once you get some water on it and there's mottles in it, they will just stand right out. By doing this, sometimes it also helps to see the different layers of the soil in here. In this case, I can go right over here and look at the difference. And I can see, like, from here up is our topsoil. Then we have our subsoil going down from here. To measure this, since we are not allowed to have measuring tapes, you know that your piece of paper is 8.5 by 11. By going like this, I can see that My topsoil is about 6 inches thick. That's going to be an important part of the third question on your score sheet. So at this site, let's take a look around. Where are we in position in landscape? Well, looks like we're pretty high up on the hill. So in this one, we're on a sloping hillside. We'll go over to the slope flag. And once again, knowing that these irons are about 3 feet tall, the shoulder height of me is about 5 feet tall. Bring my arm out perpendicular. I'm shooting just short of where that iron is. So if I were to walk out to where my finger was pointing at, then I could look at the difference in elevation between where I am and the top of the ring, and it should be about 4 feet of difference. So we have about a 4% slope out here. So we're on a gently sloping hillside. Going back to where I first started with the depth of the original, or the current topsoil, we go to our pin information card and we see that the original soil thickness is at 8 inches. We have 6 or a little bit better of current soil. So doing the math, we're going to have 25% or less of the soil surface that has disappeared. So we're going to have none to slight by water erosion. Then we will get into the textures and structures of our topsoil and subsoil. We get into our topsoil here, and just by feel of it I can tell that it's a silt loam. And then usually what I do for figuring the structure, I like to just bounce it 3 times and see what happens, and when it comes out in blocks. Now when I look at the subsoil, this is a whole different animal over here. This one's going to need some water on it. Just grabbing it, I can not only see clay, but I can feel clay. It's coming apart very, very hard. And this is going to make, if it had a little bit more moisture in it, it would make a very good ribbon. What you do is try and get a proper amount of moisture in it so you can actually work with the soil, and then rub it between your thumb and pointer finger and see if you can get a ribbon out of it, and see if you can just get it to wrap right around your finger. Since it does make a somewhat decent ribbon, this is more of a silty clay loam, which is a moderately fine. When I go back in here to do my structures, once again I grab some, bounce it around 3 times. I got great big blocks. So this is a blocky structure. Natural drainage, looking at this, there is not a well model in sight, so this is a very well drained soil. Depth of soil favorable for roots. We have no water table. We have some stones, but not that bad, so we're going to have roots down past 40 inches. Soil fertility report. That we have to go back up to the pit card. And soil test reports for pH is at 6.2. We're looking for 6.5 to 8. So we're going to check the pH. Nitrogen is considered deficient. We want it to be sufficient, so we have to check that one as well. Phosphorus, we're at 25. We're looking for 30 or higher. So we'll check that one. And potassium's at 140. We're looking for 150 or above. So you need to check that one. So pH, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium would all be checked for this one. Next question is, soil is subject to sheet wheel or wind erosion. We're at 4%. Cropland over 2%. We're going to check yes for that. Subject to occasional overflow or flooding. Boy, I hope not. There is not in the floodplain. We don't have a waterway, so check no for that one. Surface drainage restricted. There are no models present, so we'll check no for that one. Subsoil drainage restricted from a high water table. There are no models above 36 inches, so we'll check no for that one. Low available water capacity. It is not very sandy, nor do we have 50% of volume of stones in the top 40 inches, so we're going to check no for that. Stoniness, we do not have 50% stones by volume in the top 10 inches, so we're going to check no for that. And no limitations. Since we check yes in block 1, we do have limitations, so we'll be checking no in number 7, no limitations. Now for the class. I like to use a little trick here. It's kind of a guide. When you're looking at this side of class 1, 2, 3, and 4, a lot of times when you flip the page over and you're in the site slope area, for these, nearly level is a class 1, gently sloping is a class 2, moderately sloping is a class 3, and strongly sloping is a class 4. Since we were on gently sloping, we're going to have a class 2 soil. Conservation practices. Develop and implement a nutrient management plan. We are judging this site as cropland, so we would mark yes for that. Use residue management or plant a cover crop. Since we are in cropland, we'll check yes for that. Contour farming and contour strips. Cropland between 2 and 20%. We would check yes. We are at 4% in cropland, so we would mark yes for that. Maintain existing terraces. There are none in this area, so we would check no for that. Construct or maintain grassed waterways. We do not have a waterway system in this area, so we'll check no for that. Renovate or otherwise improve pasture. We're judging this as cropland, not pasture land, so we'll check a no for that. Eliminate or manage grazing. Once again, we're judging as a cropland, not pasture, so we'll check no for that. Improve timber stand or plant adapted trees. We are in cropland. We would only check yes for this if we were in woodland or wildlife, but we're in cropland, so we're going to check no. Establish windbreaks. This is for very sandy cropland areas or next to houses. We have neither here, so we're going to check no for that. Protect stream banks or lakeshore. This is only along streams and rivers, so we're going to check no for that one. Improve fish and wildlife habitat. This is for streams and woodland and wildlife. We do not have that here, so we're going to be checking no for that. Establish or maintain riparian forest buffers. This is for along streams and wildlife land. We're going to be checking no for that. And the last question in that section is to control invasive species. There is one plant marked. And the plant marked is an oxeye daisy. It is not an invasive species, so you would check no for that one. Okay, non-ag uses. We have houses with basements. We don't have water issues. We don't have rock issues. We don't have slope issues. So we are going to check no for houses with basements. Septic tank absorption fields. We're going to have to check yes for that because the only allowable subsoil is sandy loam, and we do not have that here. We have silt loam. And local road, streets, and driveways, we're going to have to check yes for that one as well, because in this one we had a moderately fine texture, and the moderately fine and mediums and fines and organics are not good for building. So we're going to have to check yes for that.